What's up, my derps? It's your boy Gregolis, and today's episode of Cast Guidance is coming from the set of the DD&D show, where you can find me and my friends playing live on twitch.tv/thederpwood every other Sunday. Today we're going to do something a little different and talk about the Stormwind Fallacy. Alright, go ahead and add a D4 to your ability check, and let's get better at D&D together. Before we begin, don't forget, roll to hit the subscribe button and add an extra attack to the notification bell so you don't miss any awesome content. Who here thinks role-playing is more important? Or who thinks optimizing their stats is? Today we're going to discuss both sides of the issue and let you decide. Stick with me and let's talk about the Stormwind Fallacy. What is the Stormwind Fallacy? Well, let's keep this simple. The Stormwind Fallacy states it's a fallacy that if you are a tabletop role player, you can't be a stats optimizer, and vice versa. Within the gaming community, there has been a historical argument that optimizing prevents role-playing and role-playing prevents optimization. Tempest Stormwind from the Wizards of the Coast forum posted years ago that this was a fallacy and indicated its fallaciousness. But to see that an argument of this nature has lasted since D&D 3.5 edition means that there are some extreme arguments on both sides. I'm going to lay out the argument flat and let you decide. Leave a comment with your thoughts below. Okay, jumping into the original post, Stormwind's Post. The post is a little long-winded, so strap in and let's go through it. I'll try my best to break it down. Firstly, Tempest Stormwind's post starts with the quoted version of who he considered to be the original offender in the argument. Their post reads, "I still stand by the argument that this is a fundamental difference between old school, basic D&D, one race, one class, AD&D, very limited multi-classing, versus new school. I buy a book and there is a class in there that I want and gimme. The trend I see is old school equals role players, new school equals optimizers. Note to new school people, don't listen to what you hear. You aren't a dork if you roleplay. It is okay to indulge in what D&D is all about, roleplay. If you try it and have a good DM, I guarantee you'll have a blast and won't care so much about optimizing." So clearly here the original poster is discussing the premise that newer editions of D&D created predisposition towards new players wanting it all by multi-classing to maximize their stats and create overpowered players that takes away focus from roleplay. In response, Tempest Stormwind stepped in to say, "Okay, that's it. I'm hereby proposing a new logical fallacy. It's not a new idea, but maybe a catchy new name like the Oberoni Fallacy will catch on. The Stormwind Fallacy, aka the role player versus role player fallacy. Just because one optimizes their characters mechanically does not mean that they cannot also roleplay, and vice versa. Corollary, doing one in a game does not preclude nor infringe upon the ability to do the other in the same game. Generalization 1. One is not automatically a worse role player if they optimize, and vice versa. Generalization 2. A non-optimized character is not automatically roleplayed better than an optimized one, and vice versa." Continuing on in Tempest Stormwind's voice, he writes, "I admit that there are some diehards on both sides, the RP fanatics who refuse to optimize as if strong characters were the mark of the devil, and the min-max munchkins who couldn't RP their way out of a paper bag without setting it on fire. Though I see these as extreme examples, the vast majority of people are in between, and thus the generalizations hold. The key word is automatically. Proof. These two elements rely on different aspects of a player's gameplay. Optimization factors into how well one understands the rules and handles synergies to produce a very effective end result. Role-playing deals with how well a player can act in character and behave as if they were someone else. A person can act while understanding the rules and can build something powerful while still handling an effective character. There is nothing in the game, mechanical or otherwise, restricting one if you participate in the other. Claiming that an optimizer cannot roleplay or is participating in a playstyle that isn't supportive of roleplaying because they are an optimizer or vice versa is committing the Stormwind Fallacy. Okay, let's begin breaking this down before moving on. The point being made is that optimizing a character to have better stats does not hinder someone's ability to create and act within the realm of their character's personality. They are separate skill sets that have different uses within the game. Okay, continuing on with Tempest Stormwind's post. How does this impact builds? Simple. In one extreme, they are thought experiments, optimization tests that are not intended to see actual gameplay. Because they do not see gameplay, they do not commit the fallacy. In the other extreme, you get the drama queens. They could care less about the rules and are essentially playing freeform RP. Because the game is not necessary to this particular character, it doesn't fall into the fallacy. By playing D&D, you opt into an agreement of sorts. The rules describe the world you live in, including yourself. To get the most out of those rules, in the same way you would get the most out of yourself, you must optimize in some respect. And don't look at me funny, you do it already, you just don't like to admit it. You don't need multi-classing or splat books to optimize. However, because it is a role-playing game, you also agree to play a role. This is dependent completely on you and is independent of the rules. And no, this isn't dependent on addition, or even what role-playing game you're doing. If you are playing a role-playing game with any form of rules or regulations, this fallacy can apply. The only difference is the nature of the optimization. Based on the rules of that game, Tri-Stats optimizes differently than D20, or the flavor of the roleplay, based on the setting. Exalted feels different from Cthulhu. Conclusion. D&D, like it or not, has elements of both optimization and roleplay in it. Any game that involves rules has optimization, and any role-playing game has roleplay. These are inherent to the game. They go hand in hand in this sort of game. Deal with it, and in the name of all that is good and holy, stop committing the Stormwind Fallacy in the meantime. Now me, I could have used a little less of the rhetoric, but the point being made here stands. There's a clear separation and yet marriage of both optimizing and role-playing. One could support the other and vice versa. The issue is strictly dependent on the player and how they want to approach the game. As I've stated in my other videos, defining the structure and requirements of your game up front in a session 0 setting can really help identify the table's expectations. Everyone wants to play for different reasons, and we need to respect that. Tempest Stormwind makes the argument that you can have both and have all within a character and session. What do you folks think? Is the Stormwind Fallacy true? Does optimizing automatically mean the player is unable to roleplay, or does a roleplayer automatically not optimize their character in order to add depth? We have to give a big shout out to Jay Keating for putting us onto the Stormwind Fallacy and for pushing us to do this content. I hope it gets you thinking about developing or redeveloping your character and your relationship with your table. Was the argument clearly laid out? Do you have more thoughts? Comment below so we can all get better together. And don't forget, D&D isn't a game you win. Let's cast guidance on each of our tables to enhance each other's experiences. Thanks, Derps. See you next week with more from me, your boy Gregolus. Hey Derps, thanks for watching. We're trying really hard to build this channel up, so if you could give us a subscribe, that would be really helpful and appreciated. This community matters to us, and we want to hear your voice. Let us know what you liked or didn't like, and let's chat in the comments. Also, don't forget to check me out playing D&D on the DD&D show every other Sunday. The link should be somewhere over here, or here, or here. Thanks!